They decided in '76 to take Newlywed. At that time, Family Feud was the only show, what they call strip, otherwise on 5 nights a week, and was doing really, really well. So they decided to take Newlywed Game and do the same thing, put it out into syndication. And they came to me and said, let's do it again. I said, rock and roll, let's go.
No reservations?
None whatsoever, my God. So, and at that time, Barris tried to push the envelope. He told the producer, Mike Metzger, to push the envelope a little bit. And so I had an internal fight about questions and things like that. I just wouldn't let him push the envelope too much. But we would do crazy things like we'd have little people on the show, and just had some nutty contestants. They were just a little bit off the wall contestants, but we did real well, and the show just took off, and was a huge hit in syndication. And it was on from '76 to '81, I believe, and then they brought it back in '85 to '89, and then brought it back in '96 to '98. And in '96, when it came back, Sony hired another guy to do the show, whose name I forget, and it was like somebody beating my mother. But to their credit, after 1 year, they came to me and they said, "We think we have screwed up, and would you come back and do it?" I said, "Sure." So what the heck? So we were on then from '96 to '98. The fun thing is that in the last a couple of years ago, I did a Newlywed Game for them. So at that time, I became the only host to ever do the same format for 5 decades: 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then 2000. To do the same format. Now Barker, you think Barker's been on Price is Right, but he only did it for 4 decades. And so I think I'm the only host to ever do the same format, original programming, for 5 decades.
When it returned in syndication and got a little more risque, you had some input in that.
Yeah, and I did, but I felt a little more comfortable about it. Here again, times were moving on. Television was changing a bit, and so I still think that what we did was still pretty benign, but we did push the envelope a little bit more.
In what ways, other than
There's some questions, and
more sexual?
Yeah, a little bit. But here again, we kept the teddy on the girl, man.
And did it have much of an effect on the show? Where people were?
I don't think so. There's some interesting things happen. We wanted to use a mixed racially couple on the show, and we were threatened by some southern stations that if we did that, they would cancel. But as time went on, I saw society get better. I think if you watched the Newlywed Game, it was a microcosm of our society. You could tell about how our vocabularies are getting better, how marriage is better, how our education is better. There are a whole lot of things I think you could watch. And even though it was a piece of fluff, and it was, there were still some things that you could watch and see about us today.
At one point, the syndicated version lost some sponsorship from Ford Motors and from Procter & Gamble.
Procter & Gamble, Ford Motor Company, they wouldn't buy time on our show because we were too dirty. I mean, have they seen Deadwood? Good gosh.
At the time, though, it probably was considered.
At the time. And interestingly, Gene Autry's first wife, the show aired on Channel 5, and his first wife hated the show, just hated the show. But she did not have that much power.
Did that have any effect on you as a host?
No,
because
I was still living up to what I felt inside of me. I became a rascal. There's no doubt about it. I became a rascal, and they would say things that I would go, "Oh my God," and I encouraged them to say them. But, it's verbal manipulation. If you ask a lady, and here they are, you got four couples up there who are scared, and if you say to a lady, "Now look," or a man, "Now look, I want you to picture yourself in your kitchen. Okay? Now this is in your kitchen, not theirs. This is in your kitchen. The coffee's on, it's a warm summer morning. In your kitchen, which direction does the sun come up?" You see? I get 3 or 4 different answers because I verbally manipulated them. In their kitchen, not theirs, sun's on your back, da-da-da-da, and I can get them to say east and south and north. But then after I leave it to the next girl, I hear them go, "Oh, no, look what I just did." But that's what I learned to do.